This happened just a few weeks ago. I'm 34. I work as a janitor at the hospital. I usually work late shifts, cleaning up after doctors and nurses rush around saving lives. It's tiring, but I do it for my daughter's college fund. The night shifts feel long and lonely. I've gotten used to taking a taxi home. It's just easier when I'm exhausted. I've never stopped thinking about that night I caught a cab like I always do. The city was alive with the sounds of sirens and chatter as I got in. The driver was quiet. I found that comforting, but this time it felt different. He kept glancing at me in the mirror. A chill ran through me. It was strange, I wasn't too used to a driver looking at me like that. I just wanted to get home. As we drove down the empty streets, I noticed how quiet it was inside the cab. The only sound was the engine running. The flickering streetlights cast strange shadows. I felt something was off. I shifted in my seat, trying to shake off that feeling. Something heavy next to me felt like a presence. I hoped it was just my imagination. When the driver took a turn onto a darker street, my heart raced. Suddenly, I noticed a damp leather jacket lying beside me. It looked old and worn out, and I could smell something off about it, something like iron, like blood. I froze for a moment. My palms were sweaty. I wanted to ask the driver about it, but I couldn't get the words out. Then I heard whispers, faint voices coming from the shadows of the cab. I couldn't make out what they were saying. Maybe it was just the wind or my tired brain playing tricks on me, but they were there. The driver kept glancing at me, a slight smirk on his lips. I felt the urge to open the door and jump out, but I was trapped in the back seat. I felt trapped. My chest was tight, I could barely breathe. I glanced at the driver. He seemed focused on the road, but it felt like he was aware of every move I made. I shook the whispers from my mind. They grew louder, more insistent. I thought I might scream, then I saw something moving in the corner of my eye. I turned, but the back seat was empty. The whispers got louder now. I glanced at the driver again. He didn't seem bothered at all. He just kept driving faster, as if we were headed somewhere I didn't want to go to. I asked the driver where we were, but he didn't respond. Instead, the whispers turned into a cacophony. I was sure I couldn't take much more of this. Then, he suddenly slowed down, and I saw headlights ahead. I held my breath, my heart pounding. My mind raced with fear and confusion. Maybe I was just tired? Or was something really wrong? I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Then I asked him, "What is going on?" The driver looked at me directly, eyes cold and knowing. "You'll find out soon enough," he said. It hit me hard. I realized it was not just me in the taxi. The headlights illuminated an old, abandoned building as the cab rolled to a stop. My heart pounded louder than the engine had been. The driver turned off the car, the silence enveloping us like a thick fog. I glanced around. No other cars, no people. Just us and the looming structure sitting ominously in the dark. "Why are we here?" I croaked, my voice hoarse with tension. The driver didn't answer at first. Instead, he smirked again, a twisted satisfaction dancing across his face. "You'll understand soon," he replied, turning in his seat to face me fully. I felt sick watching him, knowing he could feel my fear. Part of me wanted to reach for the door handle, to escape this madness, but fear pinned me in place. He opened the glove compartment, pulling out a small flashlight. He flicked it on, the beam cutting through the darkness. Without a word, he opened his door and stepped out into the night, leaving the engine idling. Confusion washed over me. Should I stay? Should I get out? Against my more logical thoughts, I opened the door, stepping out onto the cracked pavement. The chill of the night air stung my skin. The driver seemed to know exactly where he was going, not bothering to check if I followed him. I hesitated, staring after him, panic rising. "Hey, wait!" I called, a hollow echo in the empty street. I struck out after him, adrenaline pushing me forward. My feet moved faster than my thoughts, as whispers chased me. I had to know what was happening. The driver reached the building's entrance, stopping beneath a dimly lit overhang. I caught up, breathing heavily, looking past him at the uninviting door. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Peeling paint and rusted metal made it seem almost alive, like it could swallow us whole if we dared enter. "What is this place?" I asked, looking up at him. He just grinned, revealing too many teeth in the dim light. "Your journey is just beginning," he said cryptically. He reached for the door handle, pushing it open with a creak that broke the stillness around us. My heart raced as he stepped inside, the flashlight beam disappearing into the darkness. I wanted to scream, to run back to the safety of the taxi, but curiosity held me. I stepped inside behind him. The musty air hit me like a wall, thick and suffocating. I reached out, feeling for the wall to steady myself. The driver stood further in, his flashlight revealing walls adorned with old photographs, faded images that glared at me from the past. Each picture looked like a scene from an old horror movie. People frozen in time, expressions twisted in confusion and despair. I shivered, realizing something chillingly familiar in the faces. That's when I saw it. My breath caught as one photograph caught my eye, a dark-haired man in a familiar leather jacket. The same jacket that lay in the back of the taxi. "What is this?" I whispered, feeling my voice tremble. The driver turned slowly, his face cloaked in shadows, yet I felt the weight of his gaze. "You'll find out soon enough." And that was when I realized that I was not the one in control anymore. I took a shaky step back, my heart hammering as I searched for clarity in the dim light. The pictures closed in on me, their haunted gazes making me feel like I was being watched. I had to escape. I couldn't stand the thick atmosphere any longer. "Who are they?" I asked, stalling for time, hoping for more than just riddles. I studied the driver as he shifted his weight, the beam of his flashlight glinting off the metal of something he held behind him. "You've already met one of them," he replied, his voice low and mocking. His smile widened. I didn't want to think about what that could mean. I glanced back at the photo, dread unfurling inside me, the sound of a loud bang echoed through the building. My heart raced even faster. "What was that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Only the past, my dear," he said, still grinning as he stepped closer, casting long shadows that warped around us. "It always comes back, doesn't it?" I turned and moved toward the door, desperate to escape. The door creaked ominously, and I could feel his gaze boring into my back. "You think you can just leave?" he called after me, an edge of something dark creeping into his voice. "You're already a part of this." With a sudden rush of urgency, I dashed toward the exit, fumbling as I grabbed the doorknob. It wouldn't budge. Panic surged within me, each heartbeat echoing in my ears. I pulled harder, but it was as if the door had fused to the frame. "Stop!" The driver stepped forward, blocking my escape. The flashlight beam caught his eyes, and I noticed something disturbing lurking behind them. Were they the eyes of a predator? I took a step back, bumping into the wall, a cold sweat breaking over me. "Why are you doing this?" I cried out, desperation creeping into my voice. "What do you want from me?" He laughed softly, a chilling sound that reverberated through the empty building. "What do you think? We're going to have some fun. You'll find it enlightening." "Enlightening?" I shook my head, a thousand thoughts racing as I searched for an avenue of escape. Then I saw the photographs again, my mind racing back to that dark-haired man. What does he have to do with any of this? Seeing my frantic eyes, the driver waved his hand dismissively. "Too many questions. Focus on the here and now." Then, everything went dark. The flashlight flickered, and with a sudden jolt, the beam died completely. A shiver raced down my spine. In that instant, I felt utterly alone, enveloped in a suffocating blackness. My breath hitched. I listened intently, adrenaline coursing through me. There was a soft scuffling sound, like something scraping against the floor. I felt the echo of my heartbeat against my eardrums, each thud a reminder that I needed to move, but before I could gather myself, whispers began to fill the darkness. They rose and fell like an eerie chorus, tones dripping with sorrow and fear. I flinched, feeling the cold fingers of dread start to creep into my mind. Then a voice cut through the noise, low and raspy. "You should never come here." And that's when I knew I was no longer just a witness in someone else's game. I was a player now. I stood frozen in that suffocating darkness, the voice still echoing in my ears. My instincts screamed at me to run, to find any shred of light or safety. But where? The whispers twisted around me, pulling me deeper into a panic. I focused on my breathing, trying to stave off the rising tide of fear. Suddenly, a flicker of light cut through the blackness, illuminating a sliver of the room. I spun towards it, my heart clenching with hope. But as I leaned forward, the light vanished again, leaving me in oppressive silence. "Please, just show yourself," I called out, my voice shaky. "What do you want from me?" The darkness shifted, coiling like a living thing. I heard a low chuckle, and the driver's silhouette emerged as the flashlight flickered back to life. It cast long shadows across the wall, and behind him, a figure stepped forward, a woman, with a haunting familiarity to her. "Are you scared?" she asked, her tone mocking as she smiled in a way that sent chills down my spine. "Who are you?" I asked, desperate to grasp some semblance of control. She tilted her head, the edge of her lips curling higher. "You already know me, don't you? I'm just here to make sure you understand." A tide of anger flushed through me as I recognized her. The dark-haired woman from the photograph. "You can't be serious," I said, disbelief coating my words. "What are you talking about?" "Believe me, it's not just a game," she replied, stepping into the light and revealing a glint of something sharp in her hand. It looked like a knife. "You're part of a story much larger than you realize." I stumbled backward, the reality of her words crashing down on me. My mind raced. What did she mean? How was I involved? Before I could formulate an answer, the driver stepped between us, his expression shifting to one of irritation. "Enough of this. Let us get on with it." "On with what?" I shouted, defiance surging in me, though every nerve in my body screamed to flee. His eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "The past has to be confronted. You can't run away from it." Then, just as the atmosphere thickened with tension, the sudden sound of footsteps echoed from deeper within the building. My heart dropped. Someone else was here. "What's that?" I whispered, fear washing over me once more. "Seems like we have some visitors," the driver said, glancing at the shadows that flitted behind him. "This should be interesting." I seized the moment of distraction to dart to the side, looking for a way out. Just then, the whispers rose again, louder, almost feverish. I could barely think. That's when I saw a small window, partially ajar, at the far end of the room. It wasn't much, but it could be my way out. Without thinking, I ran for it, desperate for escape. "Stop her!" the driver shouted. I heard footsteps racing after me, the urgency pouring through the air like a storm. My body thundered with adrenaline as I reached the window just in time. Grabbing the frame, I yanked it open, the sharp metal biting into my fingertips. "Let us see how much you really want to escape," he yelled behind me. I glanced back just once, catching a glimpse of the dark-haired woman raising her sharp blade. My heart pounded as I scrambled through the window, not looking back as I plunged into the unknown. The moment I landed on the other side, I knew I was only scratching the surface of something far more dangerous. But I had no choice, I had to keep moving. What was waiting for me out there? I hit the ground hard, the gravel digging into my palms and knees. It stung, but I barely registered the pain. I scrambled to my feet and took off into the low visibility of the night, the darkness swallowing me whole once again. My heart raced, every footfall echoing in my ears like a warning. Frantic, I glanced back at the building. The window loomed behind me, a maddening reminder of the danger that had pursued me. I could see no sign of them, but I knew they wouldn't be far behind. I pushed forward, trying to gain some distance. The air felt heavy and thick, almost like it was closing in around me. I needed to find somewhere to hide, somewhere to regroup. Just ahead, a rusty fence bordered what looked like an abandoned lot. Without a second thought, I veered toward it. I ducked behind the overgrown hedges, peering through the gaps to assess my surroundings. The lot was filled with broken glass and old machinery, an eerie mausoleum of forgotten things. My breathing steadied, though my heart still raced. I strained to listen for any sign of movement from the building. Things were moving fast. Too fast. I thought about the woman and the driver. Who were they? How did they know me? Did I have any connection to this chaos? My mind raced as I peered through the gaps in the foliage. Then I spotted something. A flickering light in the distance. I crouched low, trying to adjust my sight. It was a car, parked in a shadowed corner of the lot. The faint glow came from the dashboard. I felt a rush of hope. Maybe there was someone inside who could help me. Or maybe it could be a way out. I hesitated, my instincts battling my desperation. What if the people chasing me were already in there? I took a slow, cautious step forward, fully aware of the risks. The moment I approached the car, the silence felt oppressive. I pressed my hand against the cold metal door, eyes darting inside. Empty. Just a few personal belongings scattered on the seats. It looked abandoned, yet something wasn't right. That's when I noticed a dark stain on the upholstery near the driver's seat. My stomach plummeted. I crept around to the driver's side and peered inside again. The faint smell of metallic blood filled the air. Panic ripped through me as I recognized the severed ties to whatever nightmare this was. I stepped back, my heart racing faster than possible. Someone was in danger here, and I had a feeling it wasn't just anyone. Who had been here? Who was bleeding? Suddenly, a noise jolted me from my thoughts, a rustling sound behind me. I spun around, breath hitching in my throat. A shadow moved. My instincts flared. I had to decide fight or flight. But before I could make a move, the shadow stepped closer, revealing a familiar figure silhouetted in the dim light. It was the driver, a twisted smile plastered on his face. You didn't really think you could escape that easily, did you? My heart dropped. Adrenaline surged through me. I had to think fast. The driver, his grin unsettling in the darkness, took a step closer. I backpedaled, my pulse thrumming in my ears. What do you want from me? His smile widened. You're the one who ran. I thought we could have a little chat. He moved again, forcing me to keep my distance. The dim light from the dashboard cast eerie shadows, mingling with the fear racing inside me. Chat? I scoffed, trying to sound defiant. I don't want anything to do with you. Oh, but we're already involved, he said. You have no idea how deep this really goes. My eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. There had to be one. I briefly considered bolting in the opposite direction but noticed the flicker of movement at the far edge of the lot. Another shadow, darker and more menacing. I felt my stomach drop. We weren't alone. Looks like your friends are here. The driver chuckled, as if he could read my thoughts. Why waste energy running when I can help you? Help me? I repeated incredulously. The words tasted bitter. You're the one who brought your world crashing down? He finished my thought, stepping back and raising his hands. I'm not your enemy. Not yet, anyway. But you need to know what you're up against. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Trust is overrated in this game. He paused, glancing back to the other shadow, which was getting closer. But if you want to keep breathing, I suggest you listen. We don't have much time. I shifted my weight, trying to weigh my options. Who was this guy? What did he mean? Behind him, the new shadow moved closer, revealing a tall figure, broader than the driver. My instincts kicked in. What is this? Why are you bringing this to me? I could feel the panic bubbling beneath my words as I eyed the shadow. Because they're not here for you. They want me. The driver's tone shifted from playful to serious. And if they find you here with me, it'll make things worse. I felt trapped, cornered like an animal. Before I could respond, the new figure emerged fully into the light, revealing a face twisted with anger, eyes shimmering like glass. I recognized this man. He was someone I had seen before, but where? That's when the driver lunged at me. Run! I didn't need another word. I spun on my heel and sprinted toward the hedge, heart pounding against my ribcage. The sound of footsteps followed behind me, heavier than my own. A pulse of terror sent me flying through the debris of the lot as I scrambled for safety. Then I heard a shout, a name. "Get back here!" Sudden urgency clutched my throat. I didn't stop to look back. I ran harder, deeper into the maze of shadows and rusted machinery, praying for any way to escape. But as I turned a corner, I crashed into something solid, a wall. And then everything went dark. I woke up confused, my surroundings swallowed in blackness. The air was thick and heavy, pressing against my skin. I blinked a few times, trying to adjust. The familiar sounds of the outside world felt muted, almost like I was wrapped in cotton. Panic knotted my stomach. Where was I? I felt around, fingers brushing against cool metal. I realized I was lying on a cold floor, and I slowly pushed myself up. Groaning, I took stock of my situation. I was in what looked like an abandoned storage unit. Dim shafts of light filtered through the cracks in the door, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. My heart raced again as I remembered running, and then darkness. "Hello?" My voice came out hoarse and weak. No response. Just silence. I struggled to my feet, wiping the dust from my clothes. My mind raced as I replayed the last moments before I lost consciousness. The driver's warning echoed in my head. They weren't looking for me, they were after him. I needed to figure out what to do next. Breathing deeply, I focused on the sights around me. Pallets stacked high, broken machinery, and the scent of rust filled the space. I made my way toward the door, testing it. Locked. Great. Desperation surged through me. I stepped away, scanning the room for anything I could use. My eyes landed on a rusty crowbar half hidden under a pile of scrap. I hurried over and grabbed it, feeling a rush of power as I gripped it tightly. Then I heard a shuffling noise outside the unit. My heart raced. I pressed my ear against the door, adrenaline coursing through me. Voices. Low and threatening. "I told you to keep an eye on him, Tony." A voice snapped. "He can't slip away again." "Yeah, well, the driver slipped away, didn't he?" "We need to find him first," another replied. My blood ran cold. They were here for the driver. That meant I was in deeper trouble than I thought. I needed to get out, and fast. I listened as the footsteps grew louder, inching closer. Panic rose in my throat. I backed away from the door, clutching the crowbar like a lifeline. My chest tightened as I considered my options. Then I saw it. A window above the row of pallets leading to the outside. It was small, but if I managed to climb, I might just escape without being caught. I moved quietly towards it, lifting myself onto a nearby stack, praying it would hold. As I climbed, I paused to look back at the door. The voices were closer now, buzzing with urgency. I could hear muffled curses and the rattle of metal as they searched for any way in. I slipped through the window just as the voices grew louder, falling onto the ground outside with a soft thud. Relief flooded me. But before I had a chance to breathe, I turned and froze. A figure loomed in the shadows, watching me with an unsettling calm. My heart raced. Who was this? Looking for someone? They asked, stepping forward into the moonlight. That's when I understood I wasn't out of danger yet. I squinted against the bright moonlight as the figure moved toward me. It was a woman, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, her eyes sharp and piercing. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. "Who are you?" I managed, clutching the crowbar tighter. My instincts screamed to be wary. "Relax." She raised her hands, palms out, but there was no sign of surrender in her voice. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm trying to help." "Help?" I scoffed, my pulse hammering. "Why would you help me?" "Because," she said, her voice low and steady, "you're in over your head. They'll be looking for you." My mind raced. I had no idea who they were, but I had a pretty good guess. It was only a matter of time before the men in the unit realized I was missing. "Are you?" I hesitated, fear morphing into something sharper. Are you with them? Far from it. She stepped closer, her expression earnest. I know about the driver. I can help you find him if a loud crash from within the storage unit interrupted her. I instinctively flinched, prepared to bolt. The voices I had heard earlier were now shouting, words laced with frustration and determination. Damn it! He has gone. I heard one yell. I pointed my crowbar at the woman, panic twisting my gut. What do you know? Why do they want the driver? More than you realize, she replied, inching closer, her tone growing serious. The driver has something they need, something dangerous. And if they catch you, stop. I barked, the noise from the unit growing louder. If you're not with them, then why are you out here? I've been tracking them, she said firmly, answering my question before I could voice it. They've done things to other people. You can't let them take you back. We need to move. Now. My heart raced as I processed her words. She seemed genuine, but who was I to trust anyone? With the chaos inside the unit escalating, every second counted. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, I heard a heavy thud followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps rushing toward us. The men were on to me. Come on, she urged, grabbing my wrist. We don't have time. This way. I hesitated, torn between flight and fight. I had a choice: follow this mysterious woman into the shadows or risk being caught and dragged back to the chaos I'd escaped. I felt the cold metal of the crowbar in my hand, and before I knew it, I was running beside her, my heart hammering in my chest as we sprinted away from the sound of impending doom. Then I spotted something glinting in the grass ahead, a shiny metal object, not far from where we were running. Confusion swirled inside me as we approached. That's when I saw it. The driver's wallet, laying open and empty. Questions filled my mind. What happened to him? What was I walking into? I picked it up, my fingers trembling. But I hardly had time to think. The pounding footsteps behind us grew closer, urgency flooding my senses. I needed answers, but first, survival pushed me forward into the unknown with the stranger beside me. We ducked behind a row of crates, the sound of our pursuers getting louder. I pressed my back against the cold metal, listening, heart racing. I had no clue how long we could stay hidden. Do they know where we are? I whispered, my voice barely a breath. The woman shook her head, intense focus on the dark space between the crates. Not yet, but we can't stay here. They're getting more frantic, which means they're growing desperate. Who exactly are they? I asked, my fear turning into frustration. And why do you care about the driver so much? She shot me a look, the kind that promised she'd explain soon if we lived long enough. We don't have time for this. Let us keep moving. With that, she took off again, holding the edge of a crate for balance as she maneuvered through the maze of containers. I followed, my breath hitching in my throat. The wallet still felt heavy in my pocket, a symbol of a man who was possibly dead but had once been very real. Had they killed him? Was I next? As we rounded a corner, the harsh light of a street lamp began to filter through the gaps in the crates. I blinked against the brightness, momentarily blinded, and stumbled as the ground shifted beneath me. Come on, she urged, pulling me along. Once we rounded the last crate, I squinted. What I saw shocked me. A black SUV idled quietly in the distance with two figures standing outside, scanning the shadows. The familiar dread pooled in my stomach. Those are them, she said, her voice tight with urgency. We need to get to that alleyway. What if they see us? I felt the weight of my crowbar heavy in my hands, like a helpless defense against the chaos unfolding around me. Trust me, she said. Stay low and move fast. Before I could respond, she slipped toward the alley, her movements smooth and practiced. I followed, trying to keep my head down, but every instinct screamed for me to run and hide. The tension wrapped around me like a noose, tightening with every step. We skidded into the darkness of the alley, silhouettes of buildings looming over us. My heart was pounding, not just from the run but from the fact I might have just helped myself toward a deadly confrontation. Why did you care about the wallet? I asked, trying to catch my breath. What does it mean? She hesitated for a moment, studying my face. The driver was part of something bigger, something that still isn't finished. The wallet could lead to answers. It's not just a wallet, it's a key. A key to what? I pressed. But before she could answer, I heard a voice behind us, harsh and commanding. Check the alley. Panic surged in my veins. They had found us. I felt the adrenaline spike, the urge to fight or flee. Suddenly, a bright beam of light flicked through the alley, striking me like a spotlight. They were closing in, and whatever this was going to lead to, it wouldn't end well. As the footsteps grew louder, I pulled the crowbar tight against my chest, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down hard. The moment of truth was upon us. I felt my breath catch as a bright beam of light swung towards where I crouched in the shadows with the woman. My heart pounded, adrenaline pumping through me like an electric current. There was nowhere to go, just a tight alley with walls rising on both sides like sentinels. The sound of boots hitting the concrete echoed ominously, signaling that they were getting closer. We need to stay quiet, the woman whispered, pressing her body against the wall. I mirrored her, trying to blend into the darkness. My mind raced with questions, and despite the urgency of the moment, I couldn't help but ponder about the driver and his involvement in whatever nightmare I had stumbled into. The footsteps reverberated closer, and I dared to glance through a narrow gap in the crates. Two men emerged, scanning their surroundings with flashes of light cutting through the gloom. Their faces were hardened, filled with determination. He has to be here somewhere, one barked, kicking at a nearby trash can. Split up. Check the other side, the other ordered, and I felt a jolt of panic as they lingered near our hiding spot. It was a matter of moments before they found us. Desperation gripped me, and as I turned to look at the woman, she met my gaze, determination glimmering in her eyes. Follow my lead, she mouthed, turning slightly toward a narrow escape route further down the alley. I could barely hear the men now as their voices faded into the distance. Taking a deep breath, I nodded. As quietly as we could, we slipped further into the shadows. My heart raced, each thump echoing in my ears, every instinct screaming for me to run, but the woman held her hand up to stop me. There was a door ahead, slightly ajar, inviting us into its dark interior. She gestured for me to follow her inside. Now, she urged, slipping through. I followed closely behind, taking care to keep a low profile. Crouching in the dimly lit room filled with dusty crates and discarded items, I let out a shaky breath. My mind was still racing with the what-ifs. What happens now? I whispered. I couldn't shake the feeling that the danger wasn't over yet. The wallet you found is a link, a breadcrumb leading us to the driver, she whispered urgently. If we can figure out where he has gone, we might be able to stop them. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back at me. We can't stay here long. They'll be looking for us. We need to find his trail. I fumbled with the wallet still tucked in my jacket, my fingers trembling. Did it really hold answers? I opened it to nothing but old receipts and a tattered business card. There's nothing here. Look closer, she urged. As I studied the card, my heart sank. It was for a diner on the other side of town. I'd heard about the place, a 24-hour joint popular with night owls. That's where he went. I remember now, I said, recalling the flashes of memory behind the driver. He mentioned it when we drove before. Her eyes lit up with understanding. Then that's it. We need to get there. Just as we turned to leave, the door swung open with a violent crash. The two men from earlier stood there, blocking the exit, eyes wild with anger. There they are. One shouted, and in an instant, chaos erupted with the echoes of footsteps and the door slamming shut behind us. We have to fight. I shouted, raising the crowbar instinctively. The woman squared her shoulders, ready to take them on, but just then, another loud bang emerged outside, causing shadows to flicker in the dim light, and a series of angry voices cursing followed. What's happening? I gasped, looking at her. They're here, she said, and before I could question anything else, she lunged forward, pushing through the chaos of the two men, but as fists flew and the fight ensued, my mind raced. Could this truly be about the driver? Were those men linked to him? And what was their plan? I felt like a piece on a chessboard, in a game I had never signed up for, but the door was there, a thin promise of escape. I darted past them, prying the door open just as the commotion escalated, allowing darkness to wash over me. I dashed into the alley, heart pounding louder than ever. Outside, it was a whirlwind of confusion. The woman followed close behind me, forcing us to weave through shadows. The stench of metal and adrenaline filled the air, and I couldn't tell who was pursuing us anymore. "This way!" she shouted, leading me away from the commotion. We darted down twisted streets, the familiar sights of the city morphing into a blur. "We need to get to the diner," I managed to say between breaths. "That's where I think he went." "Maybe," she replied, adrenaline spurring her on, "but we'll need to double back. If they're still after us, they'll know our route." Despite the weight of uncertainty pressing on me, that diner was now the only beacon of hope. As we cut through the maze of alleyways that twisted like the thrumming pulse of the city, I couldn't help but think of the driver. Was he really involved in this darkness, or was he a victim of it too? I had no answers, and perhaps I never would. Just then, I caught a glimpse of something up ahead, the neon sign flickering against the night sky. There it was, the diner. As we reached its entrance, my hand gripped the cold metal handle, pushing the door in. I stepped inside, heart racing, unsure if it was truly a sanctuary or another trap. I took a breath as we entered. The familiar scent of coffee wafted toward me, yet unease fluttered in my stomach. Would he be here? Were we too late? I looked back to the woman, seeking reassurance. She nodded, determination etched on her face. "Let us hope we can find some answers. If we're lucky, he is here." But as I scanned the diner, filled with the muted sounds of late-night chatter and clinking silverware, I couldn't shake the feeling deep in my gut. Whatever awaited us here would only raise more questions, and somehow, I knew the end of the journey was just the beginning.